For decades, Sarah Jessica Parker has been more than a star. She's been a force of nature, the beating heart of New York in heels, immortalized as Carrie Bradshaw, yet shaped by storms the world never saw. Long before the Gilded Image, she was a child in Nelsonville, Ohio, born the 25th of March 1965, into a drafty house where winters bit through thin walls. Bills went unpaid, and holidays often slipped by without presents or candles. Her parents split when she was 3. By the time her mother Barbara remarried to Paul Forsty, a kind, steady man with 4 children of his own, the blended family of 8 was living on stretched meals, shared mattresses, and the constant awareness of what things cost. There was no room for fragility. While other kids played, Sarah studied ballet, singing, and acting. By 8, she was in classes. By 11, she was auditioning because talent wasn't a hobby, it was survival. She landed early work in theater and TV, commuting to New York as a teenager, attending professional children's school, doing homework on subways and eating whatever she could afford between rehearsals. Rejection was constant, not tall enough, not striking enough, but she kept going. And at 17, Square Pegs finally let the world see her odd, authentic charm. Footloose and Firstborn followed, and by 20, she had worked on Broadway, television, and film. A resume built less on luck than on stubborn endurance. Then came the detonation. In 1998, at 33, she stepped into Carrie Bradshaw and changed television forever. Sex and the City wasn't just a show. It was a cultural earthquake that gave women language for independence, desire, and friendship. As the series exploded, Sarah's days blurred into 14-hour shoots, endless fittings, and the pressure of carrying a phenomenon. Even as tabloids mocked her looks, and the public blurred the line between Sarah and Carrie. She collected Emmys, Golden Globes, and an unprecedented salary, yet carried the memory of a childhood where the lights were shut off. She leveraged that success into a business empire, fragrances like Lovely, fashion lines, the SJP collection of shoes, a production company, even a wine label not as vanity projects, but as proof she was more than one character. Some ventures soared, some real estate gambles in New York stung, but she kept building, learning, and reinvesting. Her personal life bore its own fractures and healings. In the 80 seconds, she loved Robert Downey Jr. deeply, standing by him as addiction hollowed out the boy she'd met at 19, until, after 7 years, she walked away, admitting later she regretted not loving him, but believing she could save him. Years later, she met Matthew Broderick, whose quiet steadiness was the opposite of chaos. They married in 1,997 inches, a small ceremony where she wore black, built a life in New York, weathered work-induced distance and hurtful tabloid rumors, yet chose each other repeatedly. Their son, James, arrived in 2002, and twin daughters, Tabitha and Marion, in 2009, via surrogacy, motherhood becoming the safety she'd never known as a child. Fame's storms weren't only professional. A long-running rift with Kim Cattrall, rooted in pay, power, and wounded expectations, finally burst into public view when Kim rejected Sarah's condolences after her brother's death, calling her a hypocrite. Sarah, devastated, refused to retaliate, choosing grief and grace over public war. Loss struck even deeper when her beloved stepfather Paul died in 2022. The man who had quietly held their family together, driven her to rehearsals, kept the heat on, and modeled the work ethic she now lives by. Barely a year earlier, she'd mourned Willie Garson, her on- and off-screen friend of decades whose death left a silence beside her that no script could fill. Today, with a fortune earned through decades of relentless work, restored townhouses, a Hamptons cottage, and closets of couture that each hold a story, Sarah Jessica Parker lives not as a distant icon, but as a woman who knows exactly what it took to get here. She raises her children, loves her husband, gives quietly to causes that mirror the girl she once was, and keeps moving forward. She is not defined by the comfort she finally gained, but by the hunger, heartbreak, and hard-won grace that forged her, and by her refusal to let any storm, public or private, extinguish her light.